Welcome, everybody, to Dead Talk Live. And tonight we have writer director Mickey Keating, whose new movie, Offseason, is coming out this Friday, March 11th, to theaters and video on demand. Mickey, thank you for being here with us. How you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
I saw the movie and I genuinely, thoroughly enjoyed it. Like we quickly said before we went live, I love the new spin that you put on a classic, story. Now, 2 days before the release date, the movie has gotten really good reviews. Really, really good reviews from the critics who have seen it. Does that help ease any anxiety before Friday comes?
Well, I mean, for sure, it's always nice to be liked, and I'm glad that it's kind of clicking with people because you make a movie and you hope that it resonates, but you never know, and so I'm really glad people seem to be digging this one.
This is very good. Now, the film has a very ominous feel to it, right from the get go. What was your inspiration to really making a dark film?
I mean, I love dark subject matter, and I really wanted to make something heavily atmospheric, very Southern Gothic in its feel, almost like an old ghost story you'd find in an old book in an antique shop. So yeah, that's what really kind of drew me to the subject matter. I really wanted to scare people, I think, and I think this one seems to be doing that.
Now, you've been noted on the record of saying you draw your film's inspiration from movies that you've enjoyed.
Mhm.
Did that hold true for Off Season? Did you have any prior movies that you've seen that really inspired you to write and direct this?
Well, every movie that I make, I want to see I write it as a fan of movies, and I want to see something that I would enjoy as a fan. And yeah, for this one, there's certainly touch points, but I think a strong jumping off point was really kind of doing something more like one of those old stories like The Summer People by Shirley Jackson,
Hmm.
or just something that was a little bit more uh, like an old ghost story in that way. But certainly like touch points of like movies like from Japanese horror to anywhere like Antonioni's Red Desert were all kind of like references for this one.
Now, Jocelyn Donahue is the main character. She plays the character of Marie, and she basically carries the whole film. Did you have any concerns, not just with Jocelyn, but a single character carrying a whole movie?
No, I mean I love that kind of shit. I'm really into that, and so anytime I can not have to cut away to another character or explain something, I'm all for it. So I knew Jocelyn would be able to carry that burden, and I think I think she did a very good job.
Oh, she did an amazing job. So, when you were auditioning for the role of Marie, what was it that you saw in Jocelyn that said she's the one?
Well, it's funny. I don't really I hate the concept of auditioning actors. I think it's really it's horrible for them. It's horrible for me. So when I was thinking about who could play this character, she immediately came into my mind, and so it was really just a matter of being like, let's reach out to her representatives if she's even interested in reading it. Great. And so she did, and fortunately wanted to sit down and talk about it more. So I mean, my theory with actors always is like I know that they are good actors because I've seen their other work. Otherwise, I wouldn't reach out. So, yeah, it was really just the luck that she said, yes, I want to do that
It's sort of
because
like a job interview, you know? I mean, how much can you convey in 20 minutes until you start working with somebody and seeing them every day? In your line of work, you get to see prior work. You get to see people and how they did. So, seeing Jocelyn's prior work, did that really play into going after her aggressively?
just in that I knew that my movie would be in good hands if she agreed to do it. That was kind of the priority number one. And then yeah, I mean, I feel like everything. Robert Altman says it best. It's like casting is 80% of a director's job, and I
Yep.
100% agree with that. So yeah, so that really was kind of as cut and dry as that.
So, when you gave the script to Jocelyn and she read it over, What kind of feedback did she give you? Did she just love it? What kind of reaction did she have?
It really was, for me, I definitely always like to write, with the opportunity to go to an actor and say, whatever you want to bring into this, let's do it. If you have ideas, if you see your characters this way, let's do that, because that's very, very exciting to me. I want this role to be kind of personal for you, and so it was really this kind of fun conversation that we had in the weeks leading up to the shoot, where basically we kind of designed the character collaboratively, which
Mm.
is great, and I highly recommend that process.
The film, you broke it up into chapters, okay? Which is great. It's done in TV shows, it's done in movies. Is that something you decided during the script writing process, or did you come up with the idea in post production?
I knew for sure I wanted to do that, but I feel like when you write that into a script, it inherently turns off financiers and money people, just because they're like, well, why are we reading it like this? This isn't a book. So I had it in the back pocket idea, but once we started editing, that was immediately put into the, as soon as we started assembling it, and never left.
And you did it really uniquely in the way you laid out the chapters, let's say, in the frame and anything. Was there any inspiration behind that? Were you paying tribute to old style movies? Because it looked very old school and it gave it a nice feel. So, was there any inspiration behind that?
I don't know if it was a particular movie, but I definitely just love that kind of design. And so, from the beginning, I knew that I wanted that kind of framework. And incidentally, I met an artist named Adeline Albert on Instagram, and I loved her work. And I asked her to do that, and she was more than happy to. And so I'm very, very pleased that it's our kind of like own original flourish. But I'm sure it's in a bunch of Lars von Trier uses chapter cards all the time.
Yeah.
So, I'm sure it was some inspiration somewhere.
The location of this film literally is a character in itself. Okay, the location is paramount. Did you have difficulty? Did it take you a long time scouting to find the perfect location to film off season in?
So I had visited this town a bunch because I grew up in Florida, and this town we had been to periodically when I was little. And so from the very beginning, writing this movie, I knew that I wanted to film in this town. I knew I didn't want it to be in a California beach town. It had to be New Smyrna Beach, Florida. So really, the process was just going down and scouting it multiple times. I think the hardest thing to accomplish was getting permission to film on the bridge, because that's a fully functional bridge that actually its job is to raise and lower when boats go underneath it. But once we were able to get that, then I knew everything else would be, fall into place. So it wasn't that they were more than accommodating, and I'm very, very thankful, because you never know, especially dragging an entire crew from LA. You never know.
Now, like I said, the location is paramount. The cinematography, the mist, the fog. Uh, there's not that. I mean, Florida. I'm familiar with Florida weather. So I assume the fog, the mistiness, that was all man-made for the appeal of the cinematography. Am I correct?
100%, and it was really, really difficult to wrangle. We wrestled mist and fog every single day and every shot, every minute. It was. I do not recommend doing
But
it.
it was paramount. It needed to
Hmm.
be done for this film.
100%.
And were you happy at the end of the day when you? Well, I'm pretty sure you're happy when you saw the final product. But after each day of filming, were there lingering doubts about the challenges with the mist and the fog? And did we get it right? Did we not get it right? And so on.
No, I mean it was beautiful, and it was. I think from the get go, everyone realized how worthwhile it was. So that's what kind of kept us going when they would short out, or the wind would just keep whipping it all away. I think everyone saw the product. If I shot this on film and I had to wait a couple days, I think I would probably have a panic attack. But we were able to watch every night and kind of, concluded very early on that this was the smart, if not very difficult move.
Yes, it definitely was. Offseason is the classic story of making a deal with the devil, pretty much. You took the concept and you definitely made it your own. There are a lot of twists in this. So when you're going and you're creating a very well-known story like selling your soul to the devil for success or whatever, what kind of challenges did you face in the writing process to make it unique?
It really was kind of these kind of universal themes are very very appealing to me, and so in providing the audience with a general kind of idea of, like you said, like deal with the devil, it gave me permission to kind of tell this story in a completely my own way and with my own style, and use that as justification for really anything that I wanted to do in the film. So it's very exciting to me when I can provide anchor points for the audience and then be able to be like, well, this is the fallout of that, and that's the reason, and that's because Rod Serling does that so well with the Twilight Zone, and I think that was kind of a fun safety net to just be, if people didn't understand, it's like, well, it's they sold their soul, that's why. This is what the devil does on the island.
Now, in the movie, it's referenced as, we're not giving anything away here, but the demon that came out of the sea. Now, that sort of lines up with the biblical book of Revelations, where the beast is going to rise from the sea. Is that where you drew sort of your inspiration? Instead of the devil walking into town and offering a deal to to this group of people, instead, let's go with a biblical reference out of Revelations, the beast that crawled out of the sea.
I mean that's a great reference. I'm very not familiar with the Bible, so I can't I can't claim that that was an inspiration. But short answer, no. But if people kind of make that connection, great. An audience's interpretation is just as meaningful to me as my own. So go for it. I think that's great.
It is. I mean, I don't know the Bible. I haven't read the Bible from cover to cover, but the book of Revelations, especially the story of the Antichrist. I mean, we've seen so many films about it, and it just made me think of that. Now, the character of Marie is a descendant of one of the original island residents. Uh, did Marie's mom, by leaving the island, really think that she gained all her prosperity on her own, and the deal that was struck up had nothing to do with it, and she could therefore escape without having to pay a penalty? Or is that something you want to leave up to viewer interpretation?
I think that would be best for the audience to draw. Because that's what's fun for me. When Malora and I discussed this role, we both came up with. I told her all my intentions, but I think what's really valuable is when a film is interactive to the audience and basically says, "Here, here's the start of the conversation. What do you think?" So please, yeah, to the audience listening or watching this, let me know. I'm very, very interested to hear how you take that.
Now,
But that's a great question.
Now, Marie never made this bargain. She's a descendant of one of the
Mhm.
people that made this bargain, but yet, we find out that she has to pay a price. Why
For
was that
sure.
so critical for you to put in there? That the sins of the parents have to be paid by the children as well.
Well, I mean, I think that's something that's incredibly relevant and noticeable today. Just with what's going on in the world and the kind of if you want to perceive something so much as the generational impact of a country's economy or how we treat the environment, I think that's may as well be comparable to a demon in the ocean. So I think that's an age-old kind of warning in some way that I really wanted to try to tackle. Because you're right. I mean, Marie is innocent.
Hmm.
She didn't even know about this pact until her mother died.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of very scary.
Now, the film. Let's talk about the residents that are on the island, especially April Linska, who plays Miss Emily. Talk about creepy, very creepy. What was it about April that echoed the character of Miss Emily for you?
She's just an incredibly sweet person, and it was really when we got this kind of list of actors who were local. It was very important to me to cast kind of local characters in the film because when you ship everyone from Hollywood, I feel like there's immediately a level of phoniness,
Yeah.
and so I was so taken by her look and her eyes, and she speaks with just the gentlest voice, and I thought that was really appealing. And yeah, I think this is her first feature film, so I'm very
Wow.
very proud of the performance she brought to the table on
Oh, she
this.
did an amazing job. Now, the story is told through flashbacks and then going into the present time, back and forth, back and forth. Very tricky if not done properly. And you did it great. The way the movie fills in gaps by jumping in the past and then going back to the present. Did you find that challenging? Were there any headaches when you were piecing it together in the end in post production and putting which flashback where in the sequence of the film?
No, it's so funny. It's like what I did with this film was I storyboarded the entire movie and did a pre-visual like edit of the film. So basically, I mean, by the time we were assembling the dailies of the movie, the structure was pretty much set in stone from the get-go. But what I will say is, when I met Melora and Melora said she would do the film, I thought, well, here's a big opportunity to write more, to kind of open the window on and give some insight on their relationship too. So what I ended up doing was giving them a whole other scene that in the place of in the script where there was a little tiny flashback. Me and my editor Valerie, we put that argument
Yeah.
in the middle because
Don't
it
call
was
me
just a fun
Ma.
scene. Right, exactly. That was a scene that I was just like, I wrote it and I was like, this would be great for me to have anyway, like if it doesn't make the film, but we put it in there and it felt perfect, and so that was the only real kind of like pleasant surprise.
Now, speaking about Melora, the film opens up with a very dark, sinister monologue
Mhm.
that will leave audiences scratching their heads. It gets explained as the movie goes on. What made you decide to start the film off that way?
I just, I really wanted to I don't know. It just felt kind of right, and it was written into the script. And then her scream, she kind of brought that, and we talked about a lot about Bergman films, Cries and Whispers, and so that was really kind of her idea to keep escalating to that point. And that's the first take. We shot probably four takes, and but we cut it in and we were like, that's it, that's perfect, that this is the movie. And so also it's an effort to be like, here it is, and if this is the rhythm and style of the film, so you'll know very early on whether you're on board or not.
That's absolutely true. Now, at the end of the film, we sort of see kind of the entity from the sea. And Marie
Mhm.
says something that, again, I think it's left up to viewer interpretation, like something along the lines of, now I understand.
Mhm.
Is that another moment that you want to leave viewers to sort of piece together on their own and get their feedback as time goes on?
Sure, yeah, and also I think it's kind of the conclusive element of a character who is inherently conflicted by what to believe and what not to believe, and as she continues down this rabbit hole, I mean, ultimately that's kind of the if you need an answer, there it is, right? So it really kind of is that heartbreaking element to me. But yeah, it's like it definitely is an effort to. I love hearing what the audience will say back, and their own interpretations.
Going back to the residents who we do see throughout the film, are they all local to the area?
In terms of actors,
Yeah.
some were, some weren't. So I think it was a mix of people who actually lived in that town, and then a couple people who had lines we brought in, and then one of our producers' parents they're in the bar too. So that's like a nice thing for them to be a part of. And then my little brother's also
Ah.
in the bar.
So you chose a very interesting way on how to depict the residents. The movie's called Offseason, for a reason. It's an island where during the winter or whatever the off season is in Florida, which I would assume would be summer. But anyway, during the off season, this island is not open for any kind of tourists. It's completely closed. The bridge is closed. Uh, just the residents are there, and the way you depict the residents as we see them during this off season was very creative, very unique. It's sort of like a time capsule. What was it that you were trying to capture by showing them the way you did present them to us?
I really wanted to make this world feel like it was disconnected from time, right? And that it was still kind of, even though it relies for a lot of the year on modern tourists and tourism, it still is trapped and playing, the catch up game with culture and everything. So I wanted the residents who stay there to feel that way. If some of them are stuck in this eternal time loop, theoretically some of them have been there and alive for hundreds of years. And so that was kind of the real effort. And then in terms of them as when she sees them in the bar and they're all frozen or their eyes or anything like that, it really was this effort to almost kind of have them be shells or robotic in a way where it's like once the people are gone, they shut down. They have no purpose anymore until the tourist season again. So
Exactly.
yeah, that was really exciting for me.
And the tourists, they're not just there to keep the finance of the island going. The tourists themselves, as it's explained in the movie, I don't want to give too much away, but they also help feed the demon, the evil entity, the devil, whatever you want to call it. They feed it as well, and that's touched upon with Jocelyn's conversation with the fisherman, who has to stay awake while everyone else is asleep during the off season. What was the element that you were trying to throw in there in regard to the tourists that come to that island during the main season?
It's very exciting. I love the duality and the hypocrisy of a place that relies and depends on outsiders for, like you said, either money, for energy, whatever, but they have an inherent hatred towards anyone who's not them.
Exactly,
And so I just
outsiders.
love, yeah, I love that kind of. I think that's something that's very common, in our world today, and increasingly so. And I think that was just a really funny, disconnect that I really wanted to try to capture.
Well, you did. Now, the film has some great special effects with the fishermen, and then at the end with the sea and the storm. Did you was it hard trying to stay in budget with the level of effects that you wanted to do?
No, because I saved my ass because I storyboarded the whole movie. Because I think the problem that you get into, especially with visual effects, is if you don't have a plan and a mapped out, calculated plan, and you're just shooting coverage, that can add up a lot. Like
Yeah.
getting visual effects made is a real task, and so as long as you're very, very, very specific of what you have in mind, you can really stretch the dollar as much as possible. I mean, the Coen brothers say it the best. They say we storyboard because if we have a room and we know we only need two of the walls, there's no point in building four walls for a set. And I think that applies very well to CGI and visual effects as well.
Absolutely. Now, let's go to how you got your start. You started, you interned at Blumhouse. How much did that experience help you getting into the world of directing, writing, especially in horror?
Yes. So I grew up making movies. I've only ever wanted to make movies. I don't have any other interests or hobbies. Movies are everything. And so I actually, in college, I interned for Larry Fessenden first and foremost at Glass Eye Pix. And there I was able to kind of watch them navigate through, independent, completely fiercely independent filmmaking to make, things that are their own artistic voice. And then when I moved out to Los Angeles, watching the Jason Blum and Blumhouse make movies that are small but still studio minded and working with a studio, it really was this kind of exciting, a combination in my very formative years as a filmmaker. So really, I think the most exciting thing in learning from Jason Blum is really kind of keeping the audience in mind. And if you're going to try to push the audience in a certain direction or challenge the audience, you should always be making the movie with the audience, first and foremost in your head, because we're not making movies for ourselves.
Hmm.
Otherwise, you shoot a film and you put it in a drawer. So
Exactly.
it really is that kind of a very valuable thing that I learned very early on from both Larry and Jason Blum.
Now, when it comes to horror, obviously you could tell by your filmography, you're a horror fan. You love the genre. When it comes to writing and directing, which of the two do you find more, I don't know, creative in talking about? Because we all know horror is a great platform for social commentary. Do you love like the writing aspect, or do you love it when it comes time to get behind that camera?
I really love them both, and I see them both as they are interlocked for me. I think that directing is I almost say I like black out when I'm directing, because you just put your nose to the ground. You just have to make it happen. You're negotiating with time and elements and a whole bunch of other things. So writing really is, I write every day. I love writing. But the challenge of that is, like, you don't know whether what you're writing will ever see the light of day. So for me, I think that I probably would be hard pressed to, because directing is so challenging in so many ways. I don't think I would just voluntarily direct other material. I direct what I write.
Hmm.
But writing, I feel like I could write for anybody really, because I just love doing it. But yeah, so that's kind of that. They definitely do have an equal balance for me. And then I love editing. And then the most stressful moment for me is when the movie's actually coming out and you're seeing how people respond to it.
Yeah, because you're out of control at that point. It's
For
not.
sure,
It's not
yeah.
up to you. Now, horror. You being such a horror fan, do horror ideas when it does come time to write a script, do you feel they naturally flow to you? I mean, everybody gets writer's block and whatnot, but do you find yourself, especially writing horror, that the ideas really come to you easily? Not easily, but free flowing.
I mean, I have an endless well of ideas. The challenge always is whether an idea can sustain itself for, 100 pages. Because I've gotten into so many instances where I've thought like, oh, this is a great idea. And then I've started writing it, and then 25 pages in, I'm like, I don't know, I'm done. I'm done. But so the ones that arrive where I can at least see a trajectory and an ending, I know those are worth pursuing, and those are fewer and further between. And it really is a matter of weeding out, like, all right, what's an idea that's exciting but might not be feasible or great for the next movie or something, and what's the thing that's like a challenge and really I can go bigger on. Those are always the
Yeah.
ones that I end up making.
Now, as your career progresses, are you happy just being in the horror genre and making horror films, which is a great? I mean, horror is amazing. The fan base is amazing. There's loyal, they're dedicated. Or down the line, do you see yourself expanding more, let's say, into sci-fi, action, or whatever, when it comes to your writing and directing?
Yeah, I mean, well, so I'm a cinephile through and through. I'm obsessed with all movies. But alternatively, like, I'm not one of those directors who is making horror films as like a stepping stone, as many directors do. I love the horror genre, and as long as I have movies that I think are worthwhile telling, I'll always do them. But I'd love to make. I really I want to do a crime movie. I really want to do kind of, I'm very obsessed with Rainer Werner Fassbender right now, and so
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to do a kind of like domestic drama like him. I don't think I'll ever do like a straight broad comedy though.
Nah, nah.
That's not my style.
Being a horror fan, do you feel a responsibility when you do start writing a horror movie and directing it to the community, to horror fans? Being a part of that community yourself, uh, do you put maybe a little bit added pressure on yourself to give out something really worthy?
Yeah, yeah. I don't. Well, see, it's funny because like I don't know. Short of making horror movies, like I'm not involved on social media very much or anything. So I kind of feel like an outsider in terms of like a community in and of itself. But I think I would never make a movie that I wasn't ready to like break my back over, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Oh yeah.
It's like I always say it's like there are way easier ways to make money than filmmaking, and if I'm going to do something, it has to be for the effort of I want to make the best thing I possibly can. I don't want to waste anybody's time. I really want to present something that I feel like could start a conversation with whoever's watching it. So that's
Absolutely.
really the effort, and I think that's a responsibility of a filmmaker because film is a collaborative art form, and it's meant for the masses. If that makes
Absolutely. Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. The passion definitely has to be there. Mickey, I want to thank you so much for this interview. You've been great. Guys, the movie is coming out this Friday, March 11th. Do you know, as far as theaters go, which cities it's going to drop in theaters?
Yes, I can actually read off the list to you right now.
Absolutely, yes.
One second. So it'll play in two theaters here in Los Angeles. It's playing in the Alamo Draft House starting Friday, downtown LA, and the Lemley in Santa Monica. It'll be in Austin, Texas at the Galaxy. It'll be in Sandwich, Massachusetts, and then it's going to be in Chicago, Cleveland, Dallas, El Paso, two screenings in Houston, Lubbock, Texas, Minneapolis, New York and New Jersey, and then Seattle. And then on the 15th, it'll be coming to the Alamo Draft Houses in Denver and San Francisco.
Nice. That's a pretty nice release right there. And it's coming out the same day to video on demand. Should people expect it like Vudu, Amazon Prime Video to rent or buy, and all the other platforms that people may choose?
Yeah, yeah, and pretty much anywhere where you can get a movie on demand. And it's like if you're brave, if you're comfy enough seeing it in the theater, great. There no, we're in a really weird time right now,
Yeah.
so you're able to watch it same day, and so just the thing I'm begging is if you're watching it at home, please just turn down the lights and turn up the volume if you can.
I can attest to that because like we said, this film, the location, the background is another character. So
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Turn off the lights and you'll love this movie. Mickey, I want to thank you so much. I want to thank our audience for tuning in. Check out Off Season. It's coming out this Friday. Mickey did a great job. Do you have any final thoughts you want to share before we go?
No, thank you for having me. I mean, this was really great. And so I look forward to, I'm not, like I said, I'm not on Twitter, but I'm on Instagram kind of. So if you have any theories, just, message me and I look forward to reading what your interpretations of off season are.
Absolutely. Thank you so much again to our audience. Till next time, on behalf of Mickey Keating and myself, stay safe, stay walking. Good night, everybody.
Thank you.